a contentious topic. Josh Frydenberg, the Energy Minister, is basically saying we've got to let renewables and we've got to let coal battle it out, to quote his words, and just let them sort it out themselves. How realistic is this? Talk us through it.
Totally unrealistic. You can't battle it out when one army's got subsidies and the other has penalties. The second thing is he's in a very safe seat. The third thing is you can't have cheap energy, reliable energy and reduce emissions. It is just not possible. If you want cheap energy and reliable energy, you go to coal, you go to gas, you go to hydro, or you go to nuclear. If you want to have no emissions or reduced emissions, it is only nuclear. He's wanting an each-way bet, one way to appease his Green Prime Minister and the other way is using a little bit of logic. He's caught between a rock and a hard place, and all I can see is more bureaucratic committees with academics and wannabe power engineers. All I can see is the same committees and the same people who have put us in this mess are now going to get us out of it. Well, you pull the other one.
Well, I'm going to take you through a few of Josh's claims and just tell me what you think about it. You won't hear the coalition demonise coal.
Garbage.
They demonise coal?
Of course they do, yeah.
And now, what way?
Coal is a wonderful thing. Coal has brought us from peasants, and I'm with a couple of peasants here now, it's brought us from peasantry into the middle class. Coal has done that. Coal has provided this planet with the opportunity to grow economically. Now, coal has been demonised by the government because there are subsidies for wind, which only blows some of the time, and sun, solar power, which only shines some of the time. You can keep a coal-fired power station going the whole time. It has been demonised because of the subsidies.
Can I just say, you are associated with a gas project in Victoria, so we just disclose there is a commercial interest there. On this show, we like commercial interest. We prefer it to bureaucratic interest.
Funny about that, because commercial interests pay tax.
Yes.
That tax then goes to Canberra, who then tries to stop commercial interests paying tax.
Yes, exactly.
What a bizarre world we live in.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Rowan's paper, the Australian Financial Review, the most anti-business business paper in the world. Now, you make a very interesting observation, which I would like you to just elaborate on, which is the difference in the land footprint of different energy technologies. What is the level of hunger? What is the rapacious greed for land required to run a solar farm as against a gas generating mine?
Well, a solar industrial complex, it's not a farm. A farm's a positive word. Farms actually create wealth and feed people. It's an industrial complex. A solar industrial complex requires clear felling of a very large amount of the ground, and that destroys what the Greens have been telling us is so wonderful: vegetation, animals and critters. Wind industrial complexes are even worse. They destroy huge areas, they destroy human health, and these things are meant to be for the environment, and they slice and dice birds and bats, so they can't be environmental areas. When you look at a coal mine, the footprint is moderately large compared, say, with a gas well. Now, a gas well is about the area of this studio. It's a few metres by a few metres, and there's a pipe coming out of the ground, and then that goes into a pipeline. These are generally underground pipelines that goes to a gas plant, and from that the gas is cleaned up. Some gas does have some horrible things in it, you know, like that plant food called carbon dioxide.
Yes.
Oh, you know, we can't put plant food into the atmosphere, we've got to bury it. So the footprint of a gas well is very, very small indeed. The footprint of a nuclear power station is also very small, especially if it's a modular power station. So when you look
through the modular power stations, because
in today's world, you can almost go down to Bunnings and buy yourself a Korean or a Japanese or American modular power station. Now, these you could put in outback towns. These you could put at outback mines. When the mine finishes, you can just pick it up, put it on a B-double and take it somewhere else. And if you need more power, you can put bolt-ons. These don't need to go through approval processes and pouring huge amounts of concrete. immediately you can solve a problem. So they have a very small footprint and they are mobile. We have gas, which has a very small footprint, and it's mobile in that you can put it through pipelines. You have wind industrial complexes, which are a blight on the horizon, and they are there forever. There's no requirement for wind companies to clean this up when they finish up.
Unlike a coal mine where it's got to be restored to its original natural state.
Well, worse than that, the wind farms don't have to put in any money as a deposit in case they go broke, whereas a coal operation has to deposit money with the state government, and if the company goes broke, that money is used for rehabilitation.
Back to Josh's editorial on that matter, he says that substantial, renewables can now stand on their own.
I would love that to be the case, and let's put that to the test, give it a stress test and give them no subsidies and see if they can stand on their own. That is the biggest load of codswallop I've heard. They cannot stand on their own, and the reason why electricity prices have gone through the roof, which all of us are paying for, is because they don't stand on their own. The reason why electricity is now unreliable is because they don't stand on their own.
One of the concerns that I have in the financial arrangements, if we say good journalists should follow the money, one of the problems we have with a state like Victoria is, on the one hand, they're getting all this guaranteed income from taxpayers through a GST payment, but on the other hand, they're shutting down their potential sources of state-raised revenue through, for example, gas. And because they like sterilising 50 square kilometres of land to put up wind and solar, but they won't commit 2 hectares to produce a new gas plant because it's okay, the Commonwealth is still going to shovel all the GST revenue at them. So there's no accountability for performance. Tell us about the attitude of the Victorian government to the development of new sources of energy in Victoria.
Well, it's even worse than that. If Victoria doesn't have the gas and doesn't have the wind and doesn't have the sun, they pull electricity through the grid from Queensland. And where does that come from? Coal. What happens when you transmit that electricity? You lose a huge amount of it in voltage loss. So Victoria wants to set itself up as this wonderful little socialist empire where private companies are not allowed to be able to drill a well for gas in onshore Victoria, next to pipelines, next to gas plants, because they are so holy. Now, I think the best thing to do is to just cut the interconnector. See how they survive.
The Victorians were saying, oh, there is really no available gas. We have an image that we'd like to show you, and you can form your own view about whether Victoria has subsurface gas available for harvesting.
There it is.
To generate
Talk us through this
energy.
Image. Yeah.
Show us what we're looking at.
Well, this is the Wombat 1 well in Gippsland. This is an area where apparently, according to the Victorian government, we have no gas. This is only very close to a pipeline, very close to a gas plant. This gas could be into Victorian houses in a matter of 18 months. However, Victoria has no gas. But Geoscience Australia in Canberra tells us that Victoria has some 27 trillion cubic feet of gas. So here you have evidence that there's gas. We've got the specialists saying that there's gas, yet we have the bureaucrats and the politicians saying, oh, no, we've got no gas. It doesn't matter, we can ban exploration for gas because we've got none of it. Now, I think the people who are in the business would know better whether there's gas or not. And secondly, they take the risks. It's not up to the government to decide, oh, suddenly, geologically, we have no gas in Victoria onshore, yet we've got it offshore. And the difference is that the offshore gas is quite rich in that horrible plant food carbon dioxide. It's also rich in rotten egg gas, hydrogen sulfide, but it's also got a little bit of mercury in it, and that's got to be cleaned out of the offshore gas. But you don't have to worry about it because it's not on the onshore gas. So for every economic and environmental reason, the known gas reserves should be used in Victoria. We have a massive basin in Western Victoria, the Otway Basin. That produces gas offshore. You're allowed to drill from onshore and go out to offshore to collect that gas. It goes into gas processing plants onshore. Just across the political border in South Australia, Beach Petroleum have made a huge gas discovery. But apparently, as soon as you move into a socialist state, the gas disappears, and we have a huge energy consumer called Portland.